Welcome to The Intuitive Therapist with Janis R. Cohen, therapist, clairvoyant, empath, and medium. Listen in as she takes a no-nonsense deep dive into real human struggles and how to resolve them. Janis will share channeled information from her spirit guide team, as well as angels and archangels, to help you master your emotional, physical, financial, and spiritual destiny. And now, Janis R. Cohen.
Hey, y'all. This is Janis Cohen, the Intuitive Therapist, here on the Intuitive Therapist podcast. So happy y'all are with me today. I have a guest that I am so excited about sharing with you today. It is, thank goodness, the rain has stopped here in Atlanta. It is beautiful and sunny, but hot as molasses, y'all. Crazy hot. But that's not going to stop me from having great people on my show or delivering great content to you. Today is no different. My friend Nick, I'm going to talk to you about Nick. He reached out to me maybe about a month and a half-ish ago. He had discovered my podcast and felt like he would be a good fit. And it turns out that really he does some absolutely incredible work. And I'm so excited to bring him to y'all today. Nick is a certified holistic educator, and his last name is Kidawski. Sorry, y'all, forgot to give you his last name. But he helps his clients to heal their acute and chronic pain by identifying and gently releasing the trapped emotions that are causing the pain in their bodies. And then he creates for them a personalized herbal program to help them bring their body back into balance naturally. And I'm going to have him talk to you about what all of that means. But I wanted to have him on because there's so many times people will come to me. Y'all know I do past life regression hypnotherapy. People will come to me, they've tried everything. They've tried massage, they've tried chiropractic, acupuncture, traditional therapy, and other modalities of intervention. They try to heal their body from pain, but they don't have success. And that's where Nick comes in, because today he is, like I said, he's a certified holistic educator, a certified emotion code practitioner, and he is going to talk to us about how he helps his clients who struggle with acute and chronic pain to release all that shit that's inside that people keep trapped, and they get sick and their bodies get all locked up and they have all these diseases and illnesses. And he helps them connect with that and release that. And he uses herbs as a significant supplemental modality to bring the body back into balance. And he's also going to talk about 3 ways to shift the negative emotions that we have about being in pain. So welcome, Nick. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing great, Janis. Thanks for having me on.
I'm so glad. Your work is amazing. When we finally had our conversation, we did a little bit of back and forth phone tag, but we finally got to talk, and I was so impressed with how you intervene and how you truly make change in people's lives. I want the listeners to get a sense of how you got started with this. What happened that you decided that this is what you wanted to do?
Yeah, so, a couple of things. The first thing was I was a massage therapist for 9 years. So as you can imagine, I worked with a lot of people that were in pain on my table, people that had been through a car accident, they had whiplash, people just under gigantic amounts of stress,
Yeah.
that was causing their pain.
Right.
And what's interesting about that is that when they came to me, I knew what structures and what specific muscles to work that were causing their pain. But when I worked those muscles, for some people, they left and they were still in pain. Or, they got off the table and they were out of pain rather. But then they came back and they were in the exact same pain again. So I kind of asked myself, what else could be going on if, I'm working the correct muscles, but
Right.
the pain is still coming back, or the pain hasn't completely resolved itself. So that started my interest into this work. And then the second piece of it was number of years ago, unfortunately, my mother was diagnosed with uterine cancer,
Mm.
and unfortunately, she didn't make it, and she ended up doing chemotherapy and radiation, and there were some nights where she was just in so much pain, because of the drugs. And I wished that I could just, take the pain away for her in a
Sure.
matter of seconds.
Yeah.
So it was really those two things that kind of got me started on this journey. And, in working with clients, because of my past experience, it helps me to hold a space of just a huge amount of compassion for people,
Yeah.
because I understand what it's like to, be dealing with people in that type of pain a lot of time.
So tell the readers, y'all, this crazy. Tell the listeners, um, what is a certified holistic educator, and what is a certified emotion code practitioner?
Yeah, so as a certified holistic educator, what I do is it's really looking at the whole entire person and, what is the root cause of their pain. So when I work with a client, I work with supporting their body, helping it to heal itself from pain by recommending specific herbs to them. And these herbs, they support body systems. And the reason that I work with body systems is because when those go out of balance, that is where all of the symptoms begin. So I will find what specific body systems are underactive, and then out of that list, there's usually one body system that kind of started it all. That's the root underactive body system. So, for example, let's say it's the liver. So I'll support the liver with some herbs. And then I'll also support other body systems as needed. For a lot of people that are dealing with acute and chronic pain, it's oftentimes supporting their adrenal glands, because the adrenal glands help to regulate inflammation in the body.
Mm-hmm.
So if they aren't doing their job properly, then it can be very difficult for the body to get rid of that
Right.
inflammation.
Right. What's it?
And then
What's Oh, go ahead.
go ahead.
What I was just
Oh,
wondering, what's talk to me about the emotion code practitioner piece, because that when we talked about that, the holistic educator piece uh, is just it's fascinating because like you're talking about,
mm-hmm.
you find a system that really is underlying the health issue, and then you're able to regulate that, get that back working, whether it's the liver or whether it's the adrenal glands that are draining the system. And what's on the flip side, what's the emotion code piece?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so the emotion code, the basic idea is that when we go through an overwhelming or stressful or even traumatic experience, it's natural for our body to have a number of emotions about that. And if we're unable to release or process those emotions somehow, then they have to go somewhere. So they get stuck or they get trapped in the body. And then what happens is, in the case of pain, um, those emotions, they can stay trapped in the body for weeks, months, or even years after the original experience. So the muscles and the organs will start to pick up or resonate with those trapped emotions. And that will throw the body out of balance, either causing or contributing to to acute or chronic pain. So, um, if someone is in pain and they go to see a doctor or a physical therapist or a chiropractor or a massage therapist, and they're doing all of this physical work for an injury, for example, and it's not quite helping, what it often can be is that it's these trapped emotions lodged in the body
Mm-hmm.
that's causing the pain, and that trapped emotion hasn't been identified and released. so that's why that pain can still be there,
Wow.
despite doing all these physical type modalities. And, they're all wonderful and needed. But, the way that my work is unique is that I'm able to find and identify and release these trapped emotions for clients.
How do you do that? Because I was waiting for you to say that when we talked about that before we decided to do this episode. I was fascinated. So how do you find like the trapped emotion? Do you have is it just like you clairvoyant? Do you know it? Do you see it? Do you feel it? Like how do you find it? And then how do you know what it is? And then how do you release it?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I have a chart that I use that has 60 emotions on it that we can possibly trap or, that can get stuck in our body. So when I work with a client, and I do all of my sessions over the phone, so I can, work with clients anywhere, the first thing that I do is I set my intent to energetically connect with that client. So once we're connected, I am that client's proxy, meaning that the body has this capacity to kind of set itself aside and to be connected to someone else in order to help them. So since I'm connected with that client, what I do is I use something called muscle testing or kinesiology. And muscle testing, kinesiology actually means the science of movement. And it's a very easy way to get a yes or a no answer from the client's body, but also from the client's subconscious mind as well. So when I'm connected to the client, I go through my charts and I say, okay, is there a trapped emotion that we can release right now that is either causing or contributing to your low back pain? And oftentimes I get a yes. So I'll go through the chart and I'll say, okay, is the trapped emotion on the right? Is it on the left? And then say it's on the right. So then there are 6 rows with about 5 trapped emotions each. So then I'll go through and say, is this trapped emotion in row 1, row 2, row 3, so on and so forth. So it's basically a narrowing down of what trapped emotion is either causing or contributing to their pain. And then from there, sometimes the trapped emotion, we can release it right away. Sometimes their body or subconscious wants to know a little bit more. So maybe exactly when the trapped emotion became trapped, maybe around what age, for example. And then once we identify all of that, the way that the trapped emotion is released is we have two channels of energy in the body. There's the governing meridian, which goes up the back of the body and over the top of the head. And then there's the conception vessel, which goes down the front of the body. And those 2 channels are connected to all of the other meridians or energy channels in the body. So the way that the trapped emotion is released is I just pass my hand over the top of my head and down my back a few times with the intent to release that trapped emotion. And then that trapped emotion is released. It actually takes a couple of seconds, really, but the effects can be really, really, really beneficial and really wonderful.
Do the clients feel it immediately when you do that whole process and then that ultimate release? Do they like literally feel it then, or does it take a few hours to hit or a few days for them to have that release?
Yeah, so it's interesting. When I'm working with a client that is in pain, at the beginning of the session, I'll often ask them, on a scale of 1 to 10, with 1 being nothing and 10 being excruciating, what is your pain at right now? So say that it's an 8. So when I start to release trapped emotions, then I'll check back in with them and say, okay, what does your pain feel like right now? And what I find is that their pain decreases, so it starts at an 8, it goes to a 5, it goes to a 3, so on
So
and so forth.
do you keep repeating the process so that it sounds like, interestingly enough, EFT, you do rounds and rounds and rounds just to ultimately reduce the level of, anxiety or sadness, depression, illness, whatever it is. Do you do rounds of it one after the other, like in
Yeah,
EFT?
exactly. Yeah. So when I'm working with a client, when they're in pain, there can be a number of trapped emotions that are causing that pain. And sometimes those trapped emotions are their emotions that they trap. Sometimes those emotions are emotions that they take on or they
Uh-huh.
absorb from
Right.
other people that's
Right.
causing their balance to be out of body or out of balance rather. And then the trapped emotions can sometimes be their parents or even their grandparents. It's called an inherited trapped emotion,
Uh-huh.
where we take on our parents' unprocessed emotions. So oftentimes all of that takes a little while to find out. And then sometimes at the end of the session, their pain is completely gone. Sometimes it's still there a little bit, so we need to do a couple of more sessions.
Okay.
Um, Another thing too is when I'm working with them, once the trapped emotions are released, I've had so many clients say to me that they feel lighter, you know,
Uh-huh.
and it's like these trapped emotions, they're a burden, they're heavy, it's
Sure.
like a dense vibration. So once we start to release all of that, then they feel lighter because they're no longer holding on to those emotions or those denser vibrations, and then once those emotions are released, the body says, oh, thank God, I no longer have that interference, so I can start to heal myself.
Beautiful, beautiful. What is the most important thing that you want the listeners to know about why it would be important for them to seek your services?
Yeah, getting back to my earlier example and what you said in the beginning is, if they've been to a doctor or an acupuncturist or a physical therapist, if they've done all of this physical work to heal their pain and it just quite isn't gone, then you need to start looking at, other levels of someone as to why the pain is still there. So I think with releasing the trapped emotions, I believe that that really is getting down to the root of why someone is in pain.
Mm-hmm.
So, that's why someone would want to see me, is to release those trapped emotions that they might have held in their body for weeks, months, or years that those other practitioners aren't finding or they don't know how to work with and release.
So I have a question. I know a number of people who have fibromyalgia, and I know that it's a real thing, and it's finally it's become acknowledged as a real condition. And so, do you work with people with chronic fatigue, fibromyalgia, and if so, is the work that you do, this work, the emotion code work, and the kinesiology, and all of that, is that effective? And if so, how effective on a scale from 0 to 10, where like 0 is not effective at all and 10 is it eliminates the symptoms?
hmm Yeah, I would say that, in some cases it can completely eliminate the symptoms. I have had some people that I've worked with, one woman, for example, that had chronic hip pain. And she said it wasn't really due to anything like physical that happened, but she couldn't quite figure it out. So I was working with her and it released a couple of trapped emotions and other imbalances in her left hip. And the next session, she said, you know what, my left hip pain, it's all better, like it's
Wow.
gone. And I
Wow.
haven't done anything other, than work with you. So I was like, well, wow, that's really,
That's
really cool.
fantastic.
You
Yeah,
know?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
What about
Yeah.
fibromyalgia?
And then, I haven't worked with anyone with fibromyalgia yet.
Okay.
Um, but, again, if I were to work with someone that has fibromyalgia, I know the medical community can't really quite figure it out
Yep.
as to why people have it. So I can guarantee you that there are trapped emotions that are probably playing a part, with their, all the pain they're experiencing. And then from a holistic point of view, it's looking at their diet and what they're eating and, again, using herbs to start to bring those body systems back into balance, to allow the body to start to heal itself. In the
Wonderful.
case of fibromyalgia, a doctor might give someone muscle relaxants or an anti-inflammatory, and that's wonderful to start to reduce the pain, but it actually does very little to start to heal those body systems and start to heal those underlying tissues that, have become out of balance.
Got it. So when we were talking, you had mentioned that you wanted to share with the listeners 3 ways to shift negative emotions about being in pain. What are those 3 ways, Nick?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. So, the first thing I would say is to have daily gratitude. I think gratitude is so important. If I have shoulder pain, for example, I can either put all of my energy on that shoulder pain and it hurts and I can't move my shoulder and I can't do this and can't do that. And that's actually going to make the shoulder pain worse, But if I can say, okay, I have this shoulder pain, but there are so many other things in my body that are working properly and working just as intended, then I can start to shift that mindset.
Okay.
The second thing I would say would be to do some sort of meditation practice. There have been so many studies about how mindfulness can help with reducing stress and reducing pain. So a meditation practice, you don't have to be a monk sitting in a cave. You can just do a 5-minute meditation practice every single day, and the benefits will build and build and build. And then the third thing I would say would be to do some sort of like gentle exercise, even if someone is in pain, because that will get things moving through the body and that will get, lymphatic fluid, for example, moving through the body, which can help to reduce swelling and reduce pain.
Mm-hmm.
So I think doing just those 3 things will start to, over time, go a long way with helping people to reduce their acute and chronic pain. But the key is that you just don't want to do them once or twice. You want to do it consistently over a period of time.
Got it. Got it. Hey, Nick, how can people get in touch with you if they want an evaluation or if they want to get some treatment with you?
Yeah, certainly. So again, I do sessions over the phone with clients. I can work with anyone, anywhere. And the easiest way would be they can go to my website, which is www.releaseemotionalbaggage.com. And on there, they can sign up for my email list, and they'll get a holistic pain relief toolkit. And then I'm also starting to do monthly educational holistic webinars that are free that people can watch on a whole bunch of different holistic topics.
Great. And so, is there like an email they could reach you, or is it? Can they contact you through your website?
Yeah, it's on my website, but my email, it's my last name, which is Kidawski, and then my first name, Nick, Nick, at gmail.com.
Great.
So it's Kidawski at gmail.com.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Any last thoughts or words for the listeners?
I would say that they don't have to live in acute and chronic pain. I believe that the body, if you give the body the correct support and the correct things that it needs, the body is self-healing, so if you remove the imbalances, the body will start to heal itself. And, again, people don't have to suffer in pain on a daily basis.
Well, I'll tell you what, the work that you do sounds magical, and I'm so glad that you came on just to share uh, your magic. So thank you so much. I wanted to share with the readers, if you feel like this has been a valuable episode, feel free to hop on over to iTunes and rate and review my podcast. The more ratings and reviews I get, the more I can share with the audience and establish a greater audience. And as always, feel free to reach out to Nick if you have any questions. And if you have any questions or concerns about your life, whether it's relationships, whether it's money, whether it's job or a move or any part of your life, and you'd like a reading around it, reach out to me at 404-558-3971. You can also email me. My email is Janis@janisrcohen.com. And like I always say, if y'all are ready to change your life and you want to make significant, massive change that lasts, reach out to me, because it'd be my pleasure to work with you. So, hey, I hope this has been educational for you. So glad, Nick, that you were on today. And as always, I wish everybody a blessed day, a wonderful week, and live intuitively.
Thanks for listening to The Intuitive Therapist with Janis R. Cohen. If you like what you heard, the best compliment you can give us is to share this podcast with a friend and subscribe, rate, and review at iTunes.